Greetings, welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight I'm joined by Jennifer and Chris. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Since the last time we talked, interesting stuff has happened.
What's going on with you guys?
So Jen and I both live in Central Texas, and we were literally iced/snowed in for about a week and a half, honestly.
Yeah.
We set the new record for the longest continuous time being below freezing, for days. And after that happened, after things looked like they were getting a little bit better during that time process, you've probably seen and heard, the entire state of Texas had a disaster happen with the electrical grid. So a lot of people were without power. Luckily, I was not one of them. I think Jen had her power the whole time as well. But then after that, we started having issues with the water system, and we're currently still under a boil notice. So it has been an absolute disaster.
At least we have water and water pressure now.
Yes. Things are almost back to normal. In fact, I'm starting to see people posting that some of the things that were hardest to get a hold of were like bread, milk, and eggs. And I'm finally seeing posts that those things are finally starting to show back up.
I went to the grocery store tonight for the first time in like a month, and they had eggs and milk. And I didn't look at the regular bread aisle, but the bakery was out of bread. So it's getting better. And there were only like 4 people per line, not like all the way at the back of the store.
Yes. It has been an absolute nightmare. So, that being said, let's go ahead and start talking about our book, though. I mean, just so you know what kind of a situation we've been in. Normally we're asking the Canadians, hey, how's it up there? Oh, well, it's cold. We're snowed in. It's iced in, but we're fine. And we're like, we weren't fine. It was not a good deal here.
I have been under a boil water advisory too, though. When I was in 2000, we had a E. coli outbreak in the town that I grew up in, and actually Ray got sick, and we had to boil our water for a few months.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's rough.
So, but that was during the summertime, so I couldn't imagine having to do that while you're iced in and it's frigid and you have no heat and
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, but we survived. We managed to get through it. So. Well, this month's book, we decided we normally for February we read a book that's romantic in nature, or actually more so not really a romantic book. I think we've done one romantic book. It's more so about relationships. Exactly. Yeah. We go the geeky route on this. So this year we decided we would do a classic really in the relationship book area, and that is The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. The book was published in 1992, so it's definitely been around the block for a while. I remember hearing people talking about it when it first came out, being in high school and stuff. People were just like, I saw, everyone was, discussing it and this, that, and the other on like talk shows and everything. So, so just really quickly here, we're probably, because of the way this book is written, we're probably going to mainly focus on which of the love languages we fall under, and we'll kind of discuss it that way. But before we do that, let's go ahead and just kind of go around like we normally do. And so what were your initial thoughts of the book, Chris? Oh, she needs a second. Jen, what were your initial thoughts of the book?
So I liked it. I read it 3 or 4 years ago. My therapist suggested it, and I thought it was very helpful. I am not in a relationship, so a lot of that stuff was kind of annoying to hear about, all the couples and their bullshit issues or whatever. But I can appreciate how it will help me be in a healthy relationship, as well as how it helps me relate to my friends and family, because it does help me understand, oh, this person doesn't think the same way as me, we don't speak the same love language, so maybe I need to adjust for that, and vice versa. But to me, this kind of thing makes sense to me. Like,
yes,
the way he broke it down, once I read about this, I was like, oh my God, that is so me. I am, these are my love languages, and now I understand why I get so upset when people don't meet those needs. So, yeah, I'm a fan. So voice is very very
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil. He sounds like, he's a very long, drawn out voice.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a good old boy, if you know what I mean. Chris, what were your thoughts?
I listened to the introduction to it. Didn't need to listen to that. That had nothing. So I wasted like 10 minutes. I really liked it. I've heard about it forever. It's like as old as men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of thing. And I was interested to see what it had to offer, what my love language was, what Ray was, what Rays are. And, we've been together for a really long time. So do we know each other as well as we think we do? We've grown up together. Things change. Are we going to learn something about ourselves? And we did. I was surprised. Mine was acts of service. And really surprised by that. And I was surprised by Ray's, and he was surprised by it too. And then we got the kids to do it, which was really interesting with them. And we did they have, so for married couples, singles, teens, and kids. And having them take the test and finding out what theirs is was really interesting because, they're teenagers and, they're changing and their worlds are changing and they're growing up, and it's, interesting to see how they feel love and how they want to be loved. And I thought it was fascinating. Some of his examples, could do without, but the essence of it was very, very true and it was, there's a reason why it's been around for so long.
Yes.
What is it he says about filling your love tank or something?
Oh, for like a whole week.
Very hokey.
Ray would ask me if my tank was full, and I'm like, yeah, I just filled up. Not like, and he'd start giggling, like Eugene's giggling. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no, your love tank. I'm like, you have to say love tank, hon. You can't just say tank. I'm going to assume you're talking about the gas tank. But yes, it's full too. Thank you for asking. How's yours?
I 100% agree with everything I just said. To Jen's point, it made sense. And I'm glad, Chris, you brought up the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I've read that book as well. I think that is a good book. The biggest problem I have with that book is he's got this idea that, and every single example he gives just keeps beating that idea into the ground. It's like, yes, I get it. We're different. And he does admit there are situations where in that book, he does admit there's situations in the book where, a woman may be more like a man in this sense, or a woman, and vice versa. And it's like, okay, well, whatever, being the time that was written. Actually, being written in 1992, he does flip-flop. One of the things I did enjoy about the book is he does flip-flop, and he does say, she does this, and so he needs to do this, or he does this. It's not always one side or the other. So I was glad to see that, at least, especially being in 1992, that forward thinking a little bit. We'll talk about the love tank here in just a second. Actually, just thinking just talking to you two, I actually think about this. I'm like, if I were going to be talking to like a newly married couple or someone dating or whatever, I would be like, okay, so your 101 class, your beginning class is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, because it introduces the idea that men and women talk, act, and relate to each other differently. So that kind of already now let's break it down to, it's not just men and women, it's everybody. And they fall into these 5 different categories. And here's where it is. So this is more definitely a more advanced idea. And you definitely can like latch onto it more. Being the first book, he just hints at the idea of, could this apply to kids? Could this apply to teenagers? And obviously they've gone on to do it. I'm really kind of surprised there's not a version of it. I think love's a little too far a word to say. Maybe appreciation would be the way to go, but I'm really surprised there's not a work or business version of this because, to be honest with you, and Ray and I were talking about this the other night, the thing that I scored the lowest on was the verbal praise. And that's not just in my personal life. That's definitely in my work life as well. And I think if people realize that, just telling me, hey, good job doesn't really hit, but like literally, like if you bought me a Coke, that goes a long way with me. And it's funny that that's the way that I am, but it is what it is. So, yeah, I had down in my notes about it being, when it was written and everything. And then of course the other note that I had beside the actual grouping is the love tank idea. I'm like you. I think it's a little. I guess it could be a little hokey just to constantly, ask that specific question. Well, how's your love tank doing, or whatever. But I do find, Christy and I will, especially over this last year, just try to sit down and, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you doing? And that's our way of.
How's your love tank?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Your love tank, baby. But yeah, it's our way of checking in and just being like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? What's bothering you? What do you need from me? So, I
Very
appreciate
mature
that.
adult thing to do.
Well, trying to do that. So, because I'm not a mature adult and a lot of other things. All right. So, do we just want to, I figured, why don't we just kind of take each one and kind of talk about where we fall spectrum wise on that.
Okay.
one.
Do we want to explain what they are real quick?
Okay. Yeah. So the 5 love languages that he lists are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. And I've actually got the original. So you can go to the website. If you just look up 5 love languages, you can go to the website and there are 4 different tests you can take for couples, singles, kids, and teenagers. And like I even, mentioned this week when we were, getting ready to record the show, I'm like, hey, if you haven't read the book yet, at least go take the test because it would at least give you something to talk about. So, but yeah, once you take the test, it will ask you, hey, do you want to put in your email address? And they'll send you an email and it kind of explains everything. So, what's the first one they have listed here? So we'll start with words of affirmation. Because I think that was the first one in the book. And basically, I'm not going to read all this, but basically what it boils down to is I guess before we get into that, we should discuss what all this kind of means. So when he says a love language, he's talking about how you feel love, like how you feel appreciated from, let's not just say your partner or someone you're dating. Let's broaden this to even your friends and family. How do you feel appreciated? And he broke it down into 5 different categories. And he talks about this is something that came about over years and years of doing marriage counseling. And like Jen said, it makes sense the way it's broken down. But what it boils down to is if you are not speaking the right language to that person, they may or may not get what you're, genuinely trying to show affection for. So in the book, he described how these married couples would come to him and they're at the end of the rope and they're like, I'm done. He doesn't appreciate me. He doesn't love me. And he's like, same thing. She doesn't care about me, whatever. And then we start getting into these conversations. What do you mean I don't care about you? I take the trash out every single week. I make sure your car is fixed. I take care of all this stuff around the house, blah, blah, blah. And because that's his way of expressing love is through acts of, acts of service. And hers may be, I don't need all that. I need you to sit on the couch and watch TV with me. I just need you to be with me. And so they go about, it's now that I understand, so great. And anyway, so that's what we talk about when we talk about the love languages. So the first one is words of affirmation. So Chris, where is this on your list?
It's pretty high up. So it's tied with quality time at 20. I think it was 23%.
Okay.
So it's up there. I mean, I'm not like living for it. But who doesn't love to hear sweet things said to you? And I enjoy, I think this is part of the writer in me. I enjoy
Eugene.
I enjoy, pardon?
He raised his hand when you said that for listeners. Eugene.
I enjoy saying wonderful things to people. Like if I'm feeling strongly about somebody in a positive way, I love telling them that. I love saying that to them. It's not like the most important thing, but drop a little, "Hey, you look beautiful. I love you. You did it. I'm proud of you. Whatever it is. It's nice to hear, So for me, it's from Ray. I like hearing that, he appreciates the things that I do. And I like to hear that from him. And from the kids, for them, I like telling them how much I appreciate them and how proud I am of them and how much I love them. And, I try to to not love bomb them, but just, positive words have positive energy, right? Like I wouldn't want to, when you grow up in a yelly household, words can really, really hurt. So I always want to have the opposite effect. And so, yeah, I can be very gushy, but I like to hear the gush. Like I have every letter that Ray and I ever wrote to each other. I have all the love letters saved in a box. When we were dating. Yeah, when we were dating. I have them all in a box downstairs. And every card that he's ever given me, same with the kids, I have all of them. Yeah.
That's
because
awesome.
those words mean something to me.
What about you, Jen?
I don't have the percentages from my quiz because I took it so long ago, but I think that was like 4th on the list for me. It's not one of my top love languages. I appreciate hearing nice things. I'm flattered, but I think, for me, some of the other ones have more of an effect on me, especially if I'm dating. This is something I go round and round with when I'm, complaining about dating to people is men seem to think telling you you're pretty or you're beautiful or whatever is a sure way to your heart. And no, that doesn't do it for me. That's just a, quick way for them to try to, that they think that that's going to work on all women. But to me, it's just like superficial. Like if all you see is my pretty face, then I don't want to talk to you. So it's again about knowing who you're, going after and what will appeal to them, I guess, which you can't know, when you first meet someone, but
right.
For relationships, that's just not my jam. And at work and, other situations too. Like I don't seek that out, but if I get it, it's nice. So.
Right. I was just about to ask because you said work, so I think kind of neutralized. So I was going to say, so if they were to say something more like complimenting you on how smart you are or witty or something, does that hit better, or is it like that's better, but still that's not my jam?
No, okay. Yeah, that's a better compliment for me. Something that has to do more with something I can control than just like I was born in this face or whatever, like. Plus, I have more to offer than just that, but. I think too it matters who gives the compliment or who says the nice things, right? Because like if my boss, who hardly ever gives feedback, tells me good job with that or thank you for your help, it does mean a lot more to me than just anybody saying it, I guess. So
yeah.
Well,
because they're definitely
genuine.
because there are definitely people that just constantly are giving, and you're just like this means nothing.
Yeah.
Like you would compliment the wall if you thought it would get you what you wanted. So, well, mine isn't a percentage based. I'm looking at the email when I originally took this test. I still have the email that they sent me, like I said, and it's done by like points as to like how many of my questions fell into that thing. And my top one is 9, my second one is 8, my third one is 7, my fourth one is 6, and my last one is a 1. So there's a huge gap between the other 4 and this one, and that one is words of affirmation. Like you said, it also depends on the person. One of my boys specifically coming to tell me I love you, Daddy, means a lot more than good job today or whatever. But that being said, like it just, and I think, I don't know, and he does mention this in the book. He's like, I don't, there's no study or any information that shows that this changes over time. But I think it does partially change over time in that I'm sure this probably used to hit me differently. Being told by a boss that, good job or whatever. But I get so many hollow compliments or words of praise from different people from the group that I work with, and it's just like, this doesn't mean anything. Like, so I think it has artificially lowered it on my list. I still appreciate when Christy says I love you and stuff, but I'd rather have a hug, or one of my other languages. So
I'm never telling you thank you again, Eugene.
Never.
I'm not telling you that either.
Please tell me.
We'll tell you.
Thank
We
you,
love
Chris.
you,
You're
Chris.
amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so
How was Ray on this one?
yeah, that's a good question.
Ray's words of affirmation weren't as high as I thought they were going to be. They were actually, I think, his fourth. Yeah, fourth
He
one.
told me it was definitely near the bottom for him.
It was definitely near the bottom. And for somebody who's so romantic it's stupid. For a man who knows how to say the right thing at the right time, that words of affirmation are not higher up just totally baffled me. Like, I thought they'd be right up there. I do not know my husband, apparently.
Okay, well, let's talk about that real quick because he also talks about that too. The love language that you appreciate does not mean that is also the love language that you speak to others.
Right.
So for example, I can tell you right now, my number one on my list, let me double check that, was physical touch. The language that I speak to Christy, though, and I don't know if it's because I've just picked up on this and that's kind of how she falls, but to me, showing my love is acts of service, like trying to take care of stuff for people. It's, so they don't have to worry about it or that it's done and everything else. That's how I probably most heavily show love. Because receiving gifts is oddly enough number 2 on my list, and I don't feel like I give a lot of gifts, and it's weird. When I took this thing, I was just like, really? This is number 2? I felt bad. I felt like, am I really that vain? And I'm like, no, but it's not that I'm asking for a large gift or anything. Like I said, like literally, if you bought a Coke for me, it's just like, wow, that really, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree because I've been told that my love language, one of my top love languages of giving is giving gifts. But to me, like to receive, that's like third on my list. So I guess in my way, that's just a logical way that I feel like, well, I can show someone I love them by getting them a personalized gift that I know they'll like versus, whatever.
I can attest to that, Jen, because it seems like anytime we get together, or even if it's not even necessarily an official game night or something, you almost always bring something baked or something, and we do appreciate it. And
I'm partially selfish for me, but you're welcome.
You know what? It doesn't matter. Like I think it's the way that you tell everyone, "Hey, I like you. I spent the time to." Even if it was pre-made stuff and you just threw it in the oven, you still took the time to do it for someone.
But I think, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of us here, but I think
go ahead.
Giving gifts and acts of service kind of go hand in hand, and those are kind of tied for second place for me. So I think in that way, that because if you're giving someone a gift, you either made it, you took the time to go get it for them, or you thought about, something that they needed. So I don't know. I always kind of group those two together, but yeah.
So where are gifts for you, Chris?
7%.
Bottom, huh?
Yeah. So for me growing up, gifts always had attachments to them. There was always strings attached to the gifts. It was always, I'm going to give you this, but you owe me. So I have a harder time receiving gifts. It's like, okay, but why are you giving this? You're jaded, and I'm in therapy. So, so I don't like give it. It's nice. I think it's nice when they're spontaneous, and it depends on who they're coming from. I know if they're coming from certain people, it's like, okay, now this is part of the goal sheet, and I got to keep tally here because this isn't because you wanted to give this to me. It's because you're going to ask for something later. But if it's coming like from Ray or from the kids or from even our neighbors, like our neighbor, she's a feeder. So she makes big batches of stuff. And all of a sudden randomly, like I'll get a knock on the door and then she'll nicky nine door me. And there's like soup or there's like, so those gifts I like receiving. And like when Ray comes home with, food I like or flowers, I like that. But then I found out that gifts is one of his big things. It's number 2, I think, on his list. I just thought he liked spoiling me, and he does, but he also likes receiving gifts too. So we had a conversation of like, okay, do you want me to get you flowers every once in a while? He's like, no, I don't like flowers. I'm like, okay, so what's your version of flowers?
Yeah.
What would be your flower? And he said, honestly, art
Power
paper.
tool. Oh, sorry.
No,
What did you say, Jen?
Power tool.
tools. Oh, he was looking at leather working tools today. So yeah, you're not far off.
You said art paper though?
Yeah, art paper. That
Yeah.
would be his equivalent of flowers. And then I asked the kids too. I'm like, do you want flowers? They're like, no. What would be your equivalent? Both of them equally chocolate.
Good choice.
But just those little things, because it's so low on my list, I don't even think about it. I'm not thinking about gifts at all, but it's very high up for Ray. So I do want to make an effort to do that for him more often, is to surprise him with those little things and make him feel cherished and spoiled too, because he does that for me.
Yeah.
But gifts are very tricky with me.
I think it's easy to equate gifts with being superficial, right? Because it can be like, oh, you're trying to buy my affection, like you said, or there's strings attached. So if it's from someone that is heartfelt and is thoughtful, then that means a lot more than just, yeah, I got you a gift, so you've got to like me or be my friend. Like, but what you said about learning his love language and speaking it, that was a big theme throughout the book. Like, how do you even know to do that for people if you've never done it? You have to kind of learn a new language, literally, and think of ways to do whatever thing that you've never cared about for yourself, which is an interesting concept. That's why I like the book so much, because it makes you think, oh, that person really cares about this, even though I think it's silly. I guess I can do that for them.
Yeah. But how much do I care to do it? How much do I want to do this? And we've been together for so long that this has been a nice little refresher, a nice little, we've never been to marriage counseling or anything like that, but this was a nice point in our marriage where it's like, okay, we've been together for a long time. Do this things that mattered when we were younger matter now? Because we're good together, but what else is there that we don't know about each other? And this was like very eye-opening in a wonderful, wonderful way. And so, I'm going to make more of an effort to get him those little gifts and do those things for him, because, he's just done it to me. I just thought he really liked spoiling me. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. Not realizing that's something he likes to receive too, because he's never said anything about it. So
yeah.
And
I think he even knew how to articulate it.
And see, that's something that was surprising to me, because it's number 2 on my list. Like by 1 point. Like the first thing is 9 and this one's 8, which surprised the hell out of me. But then doing a little soul searching over time of being married or whatever. Okay, well, first off, you get older, you start getting less gifts, for your birthdays and stuff like that. That it just happens.
Yeah.
But my birthday always, came around in September, and that's about the time going back to school, and we have to buy clothes for kids, and we have to buy this, we have to buy that. And there were years where it was like, well, there's not a lot of money, so I'll just put off, getting, something or whatever. And internally, it hurt a lot more than I was like, I'm just being selfish, just stop being, selfish. And then doing this and doing a little soul searching, I'm like, no, I was really kind of hurting myself and didn't really realize it. But going back what you said, Jen, you brought up, and he brings this up in the book, is not even knowing what that type of love language is. And I think one of the examples he gave was a guy going off to prison said, or in prison, said he had read the book, and he's like, I didn't realize that my mom really loved me, because she never hugged us or told us she loved us or whatever, but she worked 3 jobs and made sure there was always food and clothing and stuff. And he's like, I didn't realize that hers was obviously acts of service. And he's like, I never realized that. And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. So
yeah.
But especially if you grew up in a pretty average house and you came out pretty okay, you probably have a sprinkling of all 5 of these in there. But I can definitely see if you were in a household where maybe things weren't, great, 1 or 2 of these may have never never appeared on your radar. So.
And he gives pretty good examples if you're not familiar with one of
Mm-hmm.
what you can do. He tells you it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Like
Yeah.
if you can't afford to buy people gifts, you can pick wildflowers on the side of the road. You can make something, or do something thoughtful for someone that's still going to mean something. I mean, words of affirmation obviously cost nothing, and giving someone a hug, but like if it's other things, you can get creative with how you show your love. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Let's see here. We'll just hit quality time. This was actually third on my list. And actually pretty close to the other two. Like for me, and I guess like just being in the room is nice. Like even if I'm doing something on my laptop or my phone and she's watching something on the couch or doing something, just being in the room is great sometimes. Sometimes that's all I need. There are other times, like granted, when we were going through this, what are they calling it? Snowvid or Snowpocalypse or whatever, however you want to put it.
Snowvid.
Yeah.
21.
Yeah. We recently subscribed to the Discovery Plus service, and like there's a lot of home improvement shows on there, and so we spent a couple of days like just both laying on the couch and just watching Property Brothers or whatever, and talking about, oh, I like that, what they're doing with this and this, that, and the other, and it was nice. It was nice just being around each other. So, which is killing some people right now because of COVID, because it's like I just need to be in your vicinity. I know I can talk to you through face chat or whatever as much as I want, but I need you like even if you're on the other side of a pane of glass. So, what about you, Jen? Where does quality time?
So this is my number one. And
really?
Yes. And when I heard this concept and I realized like that this was a thing, I was like, oh my God, it makes so much sense, because I get so hurt if friends don't reach out to me, if they don't schedule things, make plans, my family, like anybody, if I'm dating someone, if they don't try to, schedule dates or just talk to me, even if it's just like texting or phone calls or whatever, like I take it as like a personal affront, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why don't, they want to be my friend? Why don't they, we're not as good of friends as I thought. Like for my whole life, this is how I thought. And then when I read this book, I was like, oh my God, this is like my top love language, because I always feel closer to the people that do take the time for me and that take me up on offers to do things, and that I don't always have to be the one to initiate. That's a big thing for me, is like, I don't want to always have to plan it,
Right.
And that's like why with our group of friends, it's nice, because I think everybody kind of reaches out and, says, hey, you guys want to do this? And when we have game nights and whatever, it's, it means a lot to me, because that's how I feel like I connect with people. But yeah, that's always been my number one.
That's awesome. And that totally fits the piece of puzzle for you. Like totally makes sense. So, Chris, what about you?
So this was tied with the words of affirmation. So it was in my top three. And it was Ray's number one. Also my kid's number one too, as well. So, and by a big margin for both the kids, but it's different for each one of them. So for Logan, she wants to sit down and talk with you. She wants to have a conversation. She wants to chit chat. Whatever, it doesn't have to be anything big, just how's your day and go from there. Because her and I have stayed up until like midnight just talking, her and I, about everything and nothing. And then with Quinn, he wants you to play games with him. He wants you to sit down and go into his world.
Do an activity.
Do an activity that he likes to do. And they all love playing board games. They love, the kids are constantly trying to plan family game nights because they just love doing that. With Ray, for him, it's like what you said, Eugene. Even if it's just sitting on the couch and we're just chilling out, he just loves that. That's all he wants, is just to sit on the couch, watch a good movie, watch a good show, cuddle maybe. But yeah, just being in each other's presence for him is enough quality time. For me, it's kind of all three of them. But it's not like I need it. It's nice. I like doing it, but it's not how I mean, I don't know. It's not as, it's important, but not as important as what it is to the three of them. But I like spending time with them. So that is nothing
That's good.
Yeah, it's
like
good.
Your family.
I mean, they haven't annoyed me yet, but when it comes to friends and stuff, so friendship's tricky with me because I don't quite understand it. And especially as an adult, it's baffling for me. And so trying to spend quality time with my friends, I'm always worried that I'm annoying people. I'm always worried that I'm like being a burden. So most of the time I'll just, I therapy, I'll just back off because I don't think I'm going to be missed. So quality time with people outside of my little bubble is really hard for me to know that that's something that they need. Because I just don't, I'll just assume that if they want to spend time with me, they'll just let me know because I don't need to spend time with them. It's not that I don't want to, it's just, it's not a need that I have to meet or anything like a text every 6 months is totally fine with me. Like, hey, oh, great, how are you? And then we'll have like a little conversation. That's enough. I'm fine for a while. So it's not that I'm not thinking about them. It's just like, oh, okay. And then I go on my merry way. So quality time outside of the three people who live here is a bit harder for me to express and for me to put out there with that quality time. I'm not, because I don't need it from them. Right? Like, this is great and I love this. This is awesome. But, you know, it's not like, oh my God, I miss him so much. I mean, he would see you, but it's not one of those things that like affects me, I think, the same way it affects my daughter or Ray or Quinn. Like, it's different. It hits me different. That I have to respect that they need that.
I get what you mean about feeling like you're a burden or whatever, because even though it's my love language, I still feel like, well, I don't want to seem needy.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't want to hang out with me, then I don't want to be overzealous or whatever. So sometimes I just stop, or I'll taper off if I feel like it's not reciprocated. But it may just be that that's not their love language, and they, have other ways of feeling like they're friends or whatever. But yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, I just realized not how little quality time I need from other people. It's just how I don't think they need it from me specifically. Like, for me, they need my quality time. Yeah, that's where I struggle with. I have a little bit of a blockage in that department that I'm working on. But it's very high for the other three people who live here.
I just realized I really need to get the boys to do this because I'm almost scared that this is going to be, at least for one of them, their number one, and me not always having to struggle to try to find time to do stuff with them is not filling their love tank. And I'm just like, all right, I need to know this. I need to find this out, because if that's the case, then I need to just shut some shit down and just be like, all right, let's play a game for a little bit more and do that more often. So
it's very interesting to find out your children's love language, because I mean, as much as you see them as, they have parts of your personality, they have parts of, your partner's personality, they are such their own unique individuals. And so when both of them took that, I was not shocked, but it was just like, oh, well, I just felt like I got to know them a little bit better, and then being able to relate to them a little bit better. But I have to make it a point of making sure that their quality time is what they value as quality time. So Logan, it's the talking. Quinn, it's the playing games. Ray, it's just, he's a little easier. His is just, like Eugene, it's just sitting and hanging out. That's good enough for him too. He thinks that that's pretty awesome. So, and I can do that all the time. So
the last two we haven't done acts of service yet, have we? I know we've mentioned it, but have we actually done it? Okay. Acts of service, actually, like I said, of the list here, mine is 98761. So it's number 4 on my list. I mean, I do appreciate when people do things for me, I think it's partially thinking about it more. I need to have a conversation with Christy. I think it's probably pretty high on her. I think it's actually her number one love language. And it may be how she really expresses herself, because a lot of times she will complain she doesn't feel appreciated. And I don't think it's from a lack of me verbalizing that I appreciate what it is. I think maybe she feels like she's doing these acts and not maybe getting what she needs back. So, but yeah, like I do appreciate when someone does something, for me or whatever, specific, especially if it's something they've gone out of their way for, so yeah. And actually I have an interesting situation right now. So before all this happened, I had a woman order one of the matrices that I sell, and she got it and it was broken. And I had insurance on it, going through postal service like I always do. But I was like, okay, I've done this before. I've had this happen before. I know how to handle this. I'm like, I'm just going to ship you another one because it was for her husband's birthday. So I got it out, got it to her in time, whatever. And then I, went ahead and put in saying, hey, I need to get this covered, blah, blah, blah. Well, because of all the snow and stuff, the letter got stuck in the mail, and I finally got a letter the other day saying, hey, apparently something's changed in the last year since I've done this. And now they're like, well, if you're not the person who received it, you need to have the person who received it take the damaged item, the shipping material, and the box to a post office along with a copy of this letter so we can verify it. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's an order.
I'm like, I don't have it. This was a sale. So I contacted her, and we've gone back and forth, and she's actually like, I was like, is there any way? I'm like, I don't even know if you still have the stuff. Is there any way you can take it to the post office? And she goes, I can really try, but I'm on chemotherapy, and I can't really go out and about. And of course, my husband has to kind of quarantine as well. So we actually worked it out today. She's shipping it back to me. And I'm like, I'm so sorry you're having to do all this. This is ridiculous. But I'm like, ship it to me. I will get this sorted out so you don't have to deal with it anymore. Because I mean, she's a customer, and she shouldn't have to jump through all these hoops and everything. So, so even people that I don't know, I feel the need to try to service it up. So, so what about you, Chris?
Oh, it's my number one.
Number one, huh?
Which I was surprised at. I thought it was going to be words of affirmation. But yeah, but then when I actually think about it, it makes total sense. Yeah, so acts of service is number one for me. I think I like it, or I think I speak it and feel it the best is because I have a hard time trusting words and I have a hard time trusting actions, but the pattern of repeatedly showing that you're going to be there and that means the most to me. So, and I really enjoy it when I don't have to ask for it to be done. That's really great. Like if I'm, oh my gosh, this winter season has just been hell on my sinuses. So I've been having a lot of shitty sinus headaches. So when that happens, I get nauseous. I'm out for the count. I take oniocetrine. I'll see you in 10 hours. And what's wonderful is I'll wake up and like the dishes will be done, or the dishwasher's been unloaded, or something's just been tidied up, and it's nice because then I know that like he took the time to be like, I know this is something she normally does, but she's not feeling well, so I'm just going to do it, or make dinner or whatever, like anything that takes the load off of me. Not that I have a lot of stress in my life, but still anything that sort of shows me that he sees what I'm doing and appreciates it and knows that if there's something he can contribute, then he can do it too. And I like doing
fluent in every language.
Pardon?
Ray is fluent in every love language.
He is more than others. This one's hard for him because this one's last for him. So it's taken a long time, and not some fights, but some not disagreements, but just some me being annoyed of like, dude, like, am I the only one that sees all of this? You don't see any of this? This is just me. So I'm crazy. and you're fine with this. So it's taken a long time for him to understand. And then when he found out that acts of service is my number one, I think it clicked better. Like it made more sense for him. Like, oh, that's why. Oh, that explains a lot of our marriage. Okay. Yeah. So I do. I enjoy. I like it when and our neighbors are fantastic. Like sometimes I've woken up or I've heard other people's snowblowers going on, and people are blowing out our driveway. And it's just nice that they've gone and done that. We've done that for them too. But it's just nice to have that reciprocated because it's one less thing that I have to do or that Ray has to do. And, you know, with the kids, how I feel like they show it to me is they do the things that we've asked them to do. Not that we ask them to do a lot, but, you know, they keep their rooms tidy. They make their beds. They do their laundry. And, you know, they take care of the pets and things like that. And then when I am having a bad day, they're very aware of when my anxiety's creeped up or my depression's setting in or whatever, and I'm having a bad day, they're so good at being like, all right, Mom, we've got this. You take your time. We'll do everything else. And they just sort of shift into that mode, and it's awesome. But I don't think acts of service is very high on theirs either. Mm-hmm. So we're all learning. I didn't realize it was so high on mine. But yeah, it's funny that that's my number one, and it's the last for Ray.
That is funny. Yeah. Jen, what about you?
It's my number two, and this is the one that's closely tied for me with gifts. You know, giving gifts, receiving gifts. I just like if somebody does something for me unexpectedly, it just means so much because it shows they were thinking about me when I wasn't there, or something. They saw something and they said, "Oh, you know, Jennifer might, you know, appreciate this if I did this for her." Like my neighbor came and checked on me when we were all, you know, snowed in and stuff. And I just thought that was really sweet. So I try to do that too. I think maybe I'm not as good at doing it as I am at having, you know, receiving it. But I think, you know, I'm pretty thoughtful and I try to express it the same way. So, but yeah, definitely, you know, acts of service. It's kind of like you're spending time on me, which is, you know, my number one. Mm-hmm. So quality time. So I guess that kind of goes hand in hand.
Which leaves the last one, which is touch. And he does specifically go into the fact that that doesn't just mean like sexual touch. It just means touch, whether it be a hug or, you know, an arm on a shoulder or holding hands, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And I'll just going to go first again. That was my number one. Which actually kind of surprised me, but then also again, when I think about it, I mean, I give my boys a hug, you know, every night, and I try to hug them when I can. I try to give Christy hugs when I can. I don't know. It's one of those things that I notice for me when I don't have physical touch, more so that, and I think, I don't know, and Ray and I've had conversations about this, about just how society has, you know, really kind of been like, you know, hey, listen, you know, check before you assume, you know. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, but like most of my, you know, guy friends are all huggers, like, you know, and it's funny. I had a conversation with Cyrus I guess this was last weekend, weekend before last. And he's just like, man, it's killing me. He goes, my family and I are all huggers, and we're still trying to social distance with each other. He's like, so, you know, we'll go visit each other. And then at the end of the conversation, it's like, okay, well, bye. He's like, you know, we're not hugging each other. And he's like, it's killing me. It is killing me. And I'm like, I understand, man. It sucks. Like I go visit my grandmother and I have to stop and think, because instinctively it's like, no, go give grandma a hug. And it's like, do I expose her to this? And so, yeah, it's, but yeah, like as much as I like to just sit, you know, in the recliner or whatever and watch TV with Christy, it is even more so special if I'm like laying, because we have a couch that's shaped like an L. She lays one way, I lay the other, and it's nice to just be there. So you can just reach up and, you know, touch her if you need be. So. But yeah, I was really kind of surprised this was number one on my list. So
didn't he say, or maybe I just made this up, that this is higher usually for men than women? Like it tends to be men that are more, that this is number number one than women.
He said a lot of men automatically assume it because they assume the sexual component of it, and he's like it can definitely be that. He said, but you may find that it's not actually your number one. But yeah, he did mention that at least a lot of men tend to assume that. But like I said, like a lot of guys I know, like they're just huggers. Like whenever we were having the Geeks weekend or whatever, as soon as the door opened, so I stayed in there, I know I'm getting hugged. So, but yeah, it was number one on mine. I'm gonna start with Jen because I already know where it falls on your list.
It won't surprise Eugene, but physical touch is last on my list. I am not a hugger.
At my dad's funeral, she came up and gave me a hug, and I knew how much she cared.
Yeah.
And how much it took of her to do that.
It's not physically painful for me to hug. It's just awkward.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't grow up hugging everybody. My family didn't really do it. So like, I remember at some point at school, I'd noticed, like, people just hugged. And, we're always, like, hanging on each other. And I was just like, that's weird. We didn't do that in my house. But all that to say, like, I think it's more from people I don't know.
Right.
I don't want you hugging me, hanging on me, giving me high fives or whatever if I don't know you well. I mean, a high five's not bad, but prolonged touching, I'm not talking sexual, if I don't know you. Now, if I am attracted to a guy and I'm in a relationship or I like him a lot, yeah, I want to, hold his hand. I want to cuddle. I want to, I don't mind if his arm's around me or whatever. It's different, I guess. And but yeah, if I don't know you and we're not close or whatever, I have friends that are huggers, and Fred, and he's always given me a hard time about it, how awkward of a hugger I am, but I'm just like, it just does nothing for me. It's just weird. So when COVID happened, I was like, this is like the one good thing.
Don't have to go near people.
That's funny. What about you, Chris?
So for me it was number 4. So which is funny because I like a good hug. I bring it in. It's awesome. But I think it's the prolonged, like what Jen said, it's the prolonged hugginess. I'm like, okay, I get it. We've made the point. Let's back away. Right. We've done the hug, we've high-fived, whatever. It's like, okay, and then now we can just have normal space between us. And I remember when normal space, please.
I like that.
Enough.
Bubble. Yeah, get out of the bus.
Yeah. I feel like I should have one of those hoops that just so people don't come in.
Yeah.
But I'm very affectionate with the kids. The kids are affectionate. Ray's very affectionate. I thought this was going to be his number one because of how affectionate he is. And he's always been super duper affectionate. His mom's affectionate. His dad is not. His dad will run away. It's a joke now. His dad will run away from Ray if Ray tries to go in for a hug. Like literally run away. And I think it's because Ray's so much bigger than his dad. Like physically bigger. They're the same height, but Ray is a lot broader and a lot stronger than his dad. So his dad, I think, is like, no, you're not. I don't want to feel how much stronger you are than me.
God, men.
Like a macho thing or whatever. But his mom's super duper affectionate. Like you can't get away from her without. She does the 2 kisses on the cheek. Like you're not leaving the house until that happens. And she does that with everybody. So he grew up with that. And when we first started dating, I remember it was kind of nice, and then sometimes it was like, okay, all right, I'm done. Like,
leave me alone.
Then I remember and I hate it. Like, I didn't mind like if you come up from behind, but if you would just sort of linger there, it was like, dude. And he would get hurt sometimes. Like it would hurt him because that is how, because he is such a physical person. But it's not the sex part. It's just. That's how he enjoys it. And so COVID has been very hard on him because he is a hugger and because he's one of those guys when we were having work done on the outside of the house. He's a guy who goes right in for the handshake. He's one of those guys, and not being able to shake the guy's hand who's doing our siding really bothered him. And then, going to a buddy's
got an elbow bump.
Yeah. Like that wasn't going to do it for Ray. Ray would just rather not at all. Like just I'm either shaking your hand or we're not doing this. Yeah, like not being able to hug his friends when he sees them, and that kind of thing really, it bugs him a lot because he's such a hugger and he's known for his hugs. Like he's going to bring it in, you are getting picked up and then sit down. That's a Ray hug. And so for him, COVID's been hard. But yeah, physical touch is one of those things where I'm good. And then, we've made a point.
And everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation.
I
like holding hands. I love kissing. I love doing all that. We annoy the children with that. All of that stuff. And we're very affectionate with each other. But, some days, not so much.
I want to visit like every country in Europe, but I think that will be a thing for me because they like to kiss and and
Italy,
they're affectionate, and I'm like, oh great, we're doing this. Maybe not now with COVID, but
yeah,
it's a cultural thing for them. So.
Yeah. I mean, it took a little bit getting used to with his mom coming in for the hug and then the 2 kisses on the cheek. I was like, okay, because my mom is an affectionate person, but it was very hot and cold with her. So you're like one of those like, am I getting my head bit off or are we hugging? I'm not sure what's happening. That kind of thing growing up. So, and my grandparents that I spent a lot of time with were not very outwardly affectionate. They were never affectionate with each other, so I didn't really see it a whole lot. But my other set of grandparents, my dad's parents, were always holding hands. Every time my Nana would walk through a door, my granddad's patting her on the butt as she walks out of the door every single time. Always very affectionate that way. But yeah, I've raised very, very affectionate, and it does bother. Like I remember one time when we just moved in together, and we were young, we were stressed out, trying to pay bills, get jobs, all that kind of stuff. So my thing was to just sort of go inside my bubble, and after I think it was maybe 2 months, he just broke down, and it was like, you haven't touched me, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Because he took it really personally, and he thought there was something wrong with him and that I didn't love him anymore or something like that, or something had drastically changed. And so physical touch is very important to him with everybody. Yeah, if you're not getting a hug from him, something's wrong.
He don't like you.
He doesn't like you. Which says something because he likes everybody.
There's a skit on Saturday Night Live that takes this way too far. Have you guys seen it? Where
with the family and they French kissing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Out, and then like they'll bring someone over that they're dating, and they're like, "What the hell?" And like Paul Rudd and somebody else make out, and it's just disgusting, but it's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want a good laugh.
Well, closing thoughts on the book. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
I like you said, Eugene, I think it's important for anybody, even if you just want to get to know yourself better. And how
I agree.
The world. It's always a good thing to take things like this, to take little silly quizzes like even if you think it's silly, it's still, important to just have a better insight to yourself and how you navigate the world. And then especially if you are in a relationship or want to or whatever, to know how other people view and see love and how they navigate the world, because then it's just going to be better for both of you.
I would almost thank God I'm not in the dating scene, but I would almost
I'm so sorry.
I would almost to the point would just be like, hi, my name's Eugene, I am touch, and then this, and I'm just going to lay it out there and be like, okay, so now
like,
you know.
I gotta go.
Well, you know what? That's
maybe
fine.
L word on a date and people run for the hills.
Yeah, no games. I'm just letting you know. Here I am. So, yeah. I'm just gonna throw out. I honestly like. I wonder if Lainey and Joseph have taken this, because I'm like, if they haven't, they should, because I think at this point I think everyone should, because it makes, like Jen said, it makes sense, and it definitely, it's not one of those things that's like, oh, well, now I know exactly who you. No, it's not one of those things. It just helps you communicate with people. And like I said, I'm really surprised there's not a business version of this for you to, because how helpful would it be to know, oh, these people, all I have to do is say, y'all are doing a great job. Thank you for coming to work and doing a great job. And that would set them on cloud 9 the rest of the day. And there's other people, like I said, you buy them a Coke, all of a sudden they're like, wow, no, hey, my boss actually appreciates what I'm doing. And because, some of them, they genuinely want to, try to, show that they appreciate their employees, but not knowing the right way to do it, it may fall flat. Because like they give gifts or whatever, they purposely, give us gifts of, various things or whatever every year. And, I guarantee you there are people who are just like, oh yeah, cool, whatever, thanks. So, and it's like, kind of like, there's limits as to how many people there are and how much there is in the budget and this, that, and the other. It's like, they hadn't really kind of think about this. That was actually not a bad gift, and you just kind of chucked it. So, but what about you, Jen? Anything else?
Yeah, I would recommend the book, like you said, to anybody, whether you're in a relationship or not. I mean, when I read it, I was single, as I always am, but I went into it, thinking, oh, great, another relationship book. It's just gonna, talk about people in love and how they work it out. But it did to a certain extent, but I still got a lot out of it, because you do learn about yourself. You learn about your relationships with family and friends and coworkers, and it was just eye-opening for me to know that, oh, this is why I feel this way. It's not a bad thing when I start feeling guilty about, my reactions to people, or second guessing, I guess, my own, feelings, because that's just normal. Like, other people feel that way, and I'm not the only one that, doesn't like hugs or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely a must read, just in general. It helps. It is a little dated. Some of the examples he gives and the words that he uses are a little, dated, but yeah, I think it's a good, foundational book for being emotionally intelligent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap that portion of the show up. Let's go ahead and move on to, let me go ahead and announce our next book that we're reading for next month is How to Avoid a Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. So we're going from looking inward to looking outward, hopefully. I'm sure this will tie right into one of our other shows on the network. So kind of killing two birds with one stone for Jen here, and Chris, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get Bill Gates on the show.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that he might be a little high profile, but so. But no, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing what a man who was demonized like my entire 20s as being just this, just hoarding money. It's Microsoft, they're an evil company, blah blah blah. To, yeah, I got married and I tried to wipe out malaria and now I'm trying to save the fucking world. And it's just like, okay, cool. All right, I want to hear what you have to say about this, because it's probably, I guarantee you there's going to be probably some kind of technology aspect to it, which he probably knows his stuff on that one. So, but yeah, that is our next book for, technically it's our March book. So, what else have y'all been reading? Ray. I see Ray's name there underneath the picture. Chris, have you been reading anything else?
Yeah, so I'm reading 2 books right now. I'm reading One Wild and Precious Life by Sarah Wilson. And that's an interesting one. It's also about the climate crisis and the human collective and what we can do to help ourselves and help humanity.
And fuck ourselves.
Yeah. And we're interviewing her next week.
Oh, well.
And then also I am in the last part of Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. I'm at the part, I just passed the part where Smeagol fell into Mount Doom.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Oh yeah, spoiler alert. The book's been out for like 60 years.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the movie. But I really, I did not, like when I tried reading this when I was 16, it was like, I do not have the attention span for this. So I actually had to like grow into reading a book like this and actually have read long books like the Bobaverse and a couple of other high fantasy books where I actually have to like sit down and get really invested. And I'm glad I'm not listening to it. I do not think I could listen to a book like this on audio because the language, especially the men of Gondor and Rohan, if I tried listening to that, I'd fall asleep.
Yeah, I may try it, but we'll see.
Yeah, but it's I really, really like it, and I'm starting to get into the whole mythology behind it. Like I want to read the Silmarillion. I have The Hobbit upstairs. I want to read his unpublished works. Like I'm starting to turn into a bit of a nerd about it, but because there's so much.
Yes.
It's really
You
cool.
skip the pages of like poetry and songs.
The poetry I did.
Yeah,
But
that's
I figured
what
all the Tolkien lore people on the internet who make condensed videos about it, I'll watch those. But
There you go.
I'm not a big poetry person to begin with,
me
so
neither.
yeah, it's
I
a little
have
bit, it's a little bit lost on me, but it's very, very interesting. And I'm surprised how like I like his stuff. I like Tolkien's stuff better than I know Game of Thrones is based on, like it's inspired by.
Mhm.
But Tolkien's not a graphic person. Like he's more interested in creating a visual of the landscape and what things look like and smell like and feel like, and instead of being bludgeoned and eyes being poked out and stuff like that. Like
There's an epic rap battle between the two of them. Have you seen it?
I was just about to say, if you have not seen that, you need to watch it because it
Okay.
covers a lot of the stuff you're talking about. Like
Yeah.
one of the literal things that he talks about, he's talking about, I don't need every fucking tree branch described.
How long the is. Yeah.
And what's funny is at one point he fires back with something like, it's realistic for people to randomly get killed, but guess what? It's called fiction.
I love Tolkien, and I have an entire shelf on my bookshelf of his books or books about him or about the world. I think we need to read a book by him for this. Maybe not.
Absolutely. I'm surprised we haven't.
Yeah, maybe we could read the Silmarillion since I've never read it and I have it.
I've never read it, but I've heard it's a
textbook is what I've heard.
It's a textbook, yeah, because it's literally like the mythology of what he's created. Logan makes fun of me. She wants to get me a T-shirt that says "Whore for Lore." So
that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we read The Hobbit. That's one.
Yeah, I haven't read The Hobbit yet, and I would like to, because I did not like the movies. They were boring. I couldn't actually watch the first one. I actually shut it off because that was.
Did you guys see the meme about in Black Panther they had the guy that played the Hobbit and the bad guy, one of the bad guys, and they were like the Tolkien white guys.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Because they were both in Hobbit.
I remember seeing that. That was awesome.
Yeah, Lee Pace, because Lee Pace was wasn't he? He was the Kree guy.
He was one of them was Smeagol, right?
Yeah. That guy. Yes. Oh,
yeah, and then the main guy, I can't think of his name.
Andy
Serkis.
Yeah.
Martin Freeman. Totally forgot about Andy Serkis. Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I love that movie. It's good.
What about you, Jen? Are you reading anything else?
Just the same book as Chris, This One Wild and Precious Life by Sarah Wilson. We are, as she said, interviewing her for next month's Sustainably Geeky. So they reached out to us, and it's a good book. It is kind of all over the place. Like she said, there's some climate stuff. There's talk about capitalism and connecting with nature and just self-awareness. But it's been a good book. I mean, I'm physically reading it, and usually I have trouble physically reading nonfiction books like this, but I've, and it held me enough to do that. So I would suggest it. She's the author of I Quit Sugar and First We Tame the Beast, I think is what it's called. So she's got a few other books and a lot of cookbooks out. So she's a pretty well-known author.
Okay, cool. Very interesting. I have been reading, make sure I get this right. I'm almost done with the second one. I have been reading Red Rising and Golden Sun, 2 of the 3, and I guess it's originally a trilogy, and then he went on to do other things, by a series the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. This is the series that I want to say it was Epically Geeky, the last episode we did, that Sean has mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm looking for something to read. I'll give this a shot. You haven't led me wrong so far. I don't want to say he's led me wrong. Because here's the thing. I keep finding I'm not interested. Like, it's a future war set in the solar system, but they borrow heavily from like Greek mythology and stuff, and I just find myself not interested, but I'm like, but I want to know what happens next. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
I will
You're
probably,
not invested, but you are.
yes, I've already got the third book in my in my queue, and I'm like, you know what? I'm probably gonna finish this. I'm gonna go ahead and read the third one, and I'm probably gonna turn it back in because I don't foresee ever rereading it. Like, and that's I kind of proposed it as a shot towards Sean, and it's not. I mean,
Yes, it
we're
is.
all not gonna like the same. We're all not gonna like the same thing, but yeah, I can see where he enjoyed it, but it's just not hitting me. So, and it is what it is. So, Chris, are you still there? Because you're frozen. I don't think she's there anymore. I think maybe she's gone or something's happened. So we'll just continue on. Yeah, at least it didn't freeze on like a really weird face or anything. So, well, with that said, I guess. Oh yeah, she completely dropped out. So I guess let's just maybe she'll drop back in here. But anyway, so if you would please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Google Play, wherever it is you listen to the show. Honestly, iTunes definitely helps out the best. If you want to write a review, that'd be great as well. You can always find us. Yeah, she just wrote us and said I lost internet. Not sure what happened, so we'll just wrap it up regardless. Oh, hey, there she's back.
I don't know what just happened, and I missed like 5 minutes of that conversation. I'm sorry. My
It's
internet
all good.
stopped.
I basically was just saying I was reading the last book series that Sean had mentioned, and it's not really hitting me. So yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, you can find us at epicallygeeky.com, and of course you can also find us on YouTube there, but you can find us on all the different social media at Epically Geeky. And then you can check out the other shows, of course. We have the Epically Geeky Show, the Marginally Geeky Show, Sustainably Geeky, and Creatively Geeky. So before you drop off again, possibly, Chris, where can we find you online?
You can find me here on Epically, on Creatively, and Sustainably Geeky, and on Instagram at Rose and Hummingbird.
Jen, what about you?
Here on Sustainably Geeky, which Chris and I are both on, and sometimes on Epically Geeky. I haven't been on in a while. And on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Het's Gonna Be Me.
And as always, you can find my individual wacky adventure online at Optimachine on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.